The contents of this interview, or from Awake And Empowered Expo LLC from Ethann Fox and Flower of Life Center for Human Evolution, is for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the viewpoints held by these organizations or individuals. Always consult with your doctor or health professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or prescription drug use. Please understand that you assume all responsibility and risk for the use or misuse of this information.
Welcome to Awake And Empowered Radio. This is Ethann Fox. Joining me today is spiritual master and vibrational sound healer Mark Romero. In this interview, Mark talks about the early signs of his spiritual awareness during his childhood and a variety of other topics, including his views on the law of attraction and how his music affects the environment as well as the human body. Hey Mark, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you again after such a long time. For our listeners who don't know, we had you at our expo last year and you put on a phenomenal performance and presentation, and we are actually going to air the video from that in the near future. And I never have time at our events to really enjoy any of the presentations, but yours was one I really wished I could have attended. And I'm looking forward to having you out again this year, in 2015. For those people who might not have listened to our earlier conversation from last year, I encourage them to do so. We do cover a lot of your background and topics, which we're not going to cover some of those as in depth today. But you have quite an interesting and sometimes, I have to say, funny journey that brought you from a corporate guy to becoming a vibrational sound healer, which is quite a leap. And we went into that journey in depth in our interview from last year, but could you touch on some of the highlights from your story just to start us out?
I'll say it's quite a leap. I mean, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on with you. Thank you so much for having the space, and I'm really, creating the space, and I'm really looking forward to coming out again and connecting with people and sharing here in 2015. It is hard to believe that I came from probably the most, left brain force, where everything was forced and it was all about doing and action and had nothing to do with being, nothing to do with consciousness, certainly, back in those days. And it is about as far a twist in the opposite direction as probably one could go. And it's funny because people go, gosh, yeah, you just, converted over into this like it was some effortless journey, but it was really probably, the most, challenging journey of my life experience and a huge, tremendous shift. I say, there's always something, makes life interesting where every paradigm that we have built our life upon gets taken down. And literally, in some ways, it felt like it was literally destroyed. I mean, swept from underneath my feet. It's like, oh yeah, all those paradigms that you built your life upon over, this X amount of years, well, all those have to go out the window. And that was certainly the case for myself, because I had bought into a model that I think that many of us are presented with. We're told that we're supposed to, go to school and get out and get a job and work your way up the ladder, and the higher you go up the ladder, the more money you're going to make, the more, the more bells and whistles you're going to have and widgets and things. And of course, then the happier you'll be. And here I am at the top rung in the ladder, CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. I'm like, I'm going, wait a second. I feel like I got ripped off here. I'm anything but happy, anything but content, anything but fulfilled, and anything but healthy. And I realized, then it was a time to make a change. And there was some definite power synchronicities around that really just conveyed to me, hey, you know what, Mark, you're not gonna live any kind of quality of life if you keep going the way you're going. And besides, there's a big, huge part of you that's seeking meaning. There's a big, huge part of you that's creating a life that's more fulfilling and that contributes. And, so I had to make the shift, and I took the leap. And then, of course, from there, once the universe kind of like coerces you to take the leap of faith, then from there it's like, okay, let's start working on them for real here. Let's get rid of all those old paradigms, all those things that you built yourself about. Literally every aspect of my life got shifted. And with that, can come some discomfort. But yet now if I go back and I look back over the last 12 years, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, my level of awareness, my realization of my gifts, it's just these are things that I had dreamed about, yeah, would have I liked to unfold it quicker and faster and with less pain at certain, twists and turns on the road? Yeah, but you know what? It's like, okay, it is what it is. And I have faith that things are unfolding in their own perfect time and space. And I look at all the benefits that I have had as far as in my health and my relationship, my family, my awareness, my discovery of my innate gifts and talents. I wouldn't change anything. It's been an amazing experience and continues to be an amazing experience.
I can relate to your story because I also left behind a more mainstream life in the business and financial world, actually not that long ago. You're a little bit ahead of me in that regard. For me, it's only been about 4 years. And really stepping into a life focused on consciousness and bringing about positive changes in the world, which is very much what you're focused in as well, in a little different way. It seems that to me that everyone I've interviewed in various backgrounds has some early memory from their childhood that is reflective of what they ended up doing later in life, even though it might not have been obvious to you when you were younger. I don't think you've ever mentioned having one in our previous interview. I was wondering, was there anything you can remember from your earlier life that may have clued you into the future life that you were going to live as a spiritual master and healer?
The first thing that shows up, it's kind of funny, is like, I remember being a kid and kids, we get all excited come Halloween time because we get to pretend and play something that we want to, typically back then, you wanted to be an astronaut or a fireman or a policeman, something you wanted to grow into. And where all my friends were doing the cool mainstream things, oh yeah, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a paramedic or a policeman or a soldier or whatever it might have been. And myself, it's like, yeah, you know what? I want to be a wise man. I wanted to be wise. I wanted to figure out how all the pieces kind of fit together. And it kind of goes back to a story. I don't really remember the experience, but this has been a driving force for me ever since as far back as I can remember. My mom tells me a story. I was like 2 years old. And, for those of you who have 2-year-olds, I mean, we've learned how to walk and run. And if you turn your back, for 1 second, we're gone off exploring something, getting into some kind of trouble or something. And that happened this day. And my mom couldn't find me in the house. I mean, she's looking all over. She's getting quite frantic. Well, all of a sudden she hears this little tink, 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 and where are you? Where are you? Well, she ended up finding me. I had gone outside and gone underneath the house. And I was banging on the pipes with all the spiders and Lord knows what else was down there, banging on the pipes, because even as a kid, I had a curiosity to how all the pieces fit together and how this world worked. And back then at 2 years old, the house was my world. And so that has been a spirit that has driven me, along with this desire to gain wisdom, about life. And then as I started even getting a little bit older there, I always felt that I had a special connection with the divine and that I was here for something. I wasn't really sure what it was. I knew that it had something to do with helping people on their journey through life and helping people to remember their greatness. And these were driving forces that drove me even through all those years in my career. There was always that aspect, the desire to be wise, the curiosity for life, and the passion to want to help others. So it really started, really way back when. And I'll never even forget, I was probably before I was a teenager. I remember I was over at a friend's house and we were out looking on the telescope, up at the stars and stuff. And his dad was there with us. And I said, this is before I ever heard about quantum physics or anything like that. I said, it's almost like we're a cell within the body of God, with all these stars and the planet and the sun, and I had this vision that we were like part of this greater and grander expression. And then, of course, the word that I used back then was God. It could be source energy, life force, whatever you want to call it. And I'll never forget, because my friend's dad says, oh, God would never have anything evil in its body. And I just remember looking at him like with a look of, are you ignorant? And that was my response to that comment. But I'll never forget that defining moment where I really kind of saw this oneness in life and in the universe. And, that was an abstract concept to come out of a 12, 11-year-old's head or mouth, way back when. So it's just interesting. There's been a number of these breadcrumbs that kind of tie into what it is that I would be doing later, what I'm doing today.
I hear those stories so often in the people that I interview these days. Just a few weeks ago, I interviewed a doctor by the name of Dr. Edward Group, who, if you're going to be at the expo, you'll probably have a chance to meet him there as well. And he's in the alternative health field as well, and he talks about his childhood experiences where he was told he was an indigo child and so on. So really cool. Now, I understand your music contains some kind of special tone that, now I may be misquoting this, so correct me if I'm wrong, that I think NASA was able to identify as part of, as not being present in other music they had analyzed. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it's kind of interesting because even the definition of what I call that today has changed, because I think when we step into our gifts and we start exploring them and start utilizing them, we start realizing that there's a lot more than what we originally had perceived about them. And so what had happened was a former top consultant from NASA, his name was Dr. Ronald Jones, got a hold of one of my music CDs and discovered that there were frequencies in the music that actually restored harmony to a person's energetic field. And they were involved in a study looking at all the things that put us into disharmony, the chemicals in our environment, the cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, and from there even branched into, limiting thoughts and beliefs, unresolved childhood issues, things to that effect, and all these things that literally put us out of tune into a state of disharmony. And so they discovered frequencies in the music that actually eliminated the negative effects of these energy disruptors and actually restored harmony to a person's energy. Now, initially, it's funny you mentioned tones. Initially, I thought it was the specific notes and tones. Maybe it's the kind of guitar that I was playing. And, and that's where I really kind of started getting positioned as a sound healer. But as the metamorphosis unfolded, I realized, oh, wait a second, this is completely different. And I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you, but my wife, Dr. Lara, we've talked about this before, has always pushed my comfort zone, shall we say, always. Through the years, from the first time she told me I was a healer, I thought she was crazy and I didn't want nothing to hear with it. I would put my fingers in my ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you. Literally, I did that at one point in time, one of my more mature moments in life, I guess. But she called me one day and she said, you know what? I'm sitting here at the park with the kids and my friends here and stuff, and I just got this intuitive hit that music is not the dependent factor in the work that you do. I think you can send energy and do this work without music. So I'm on the other end going, okay, honey's having one of her crazy moments again. But at this particular point in time in my marriage, I realized, what's the point of arguing? Just shake your head. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. And she said, hey, I want you to send energy to my friend here at the park. And so I said, yes, dear. And I sent energy without music. And 1.5 miles away, her biofield was instantly tuned and harmonized. And so for me, and it was funny because I kind of freaked out about the whole thing. I didn't tell anybody for a year. It was kind of silly, but that's how I responded. And I realized, oh, it's not the guitar. It's not the music. It's something that's coming through me. And so in essence, what I've really come to learn is that I use music as a vehicle to convey these harmonizing frequencies. And that just happened to be the primary vehicle in which this gift was discovered through, which it was revealed to me. So from there, I realized, oh, wow, okay, in essence, I'm not really a sound healer, even though I do use sound, and it is still part of what I do and always will be. But in essence, I'm kind of like a harmonizer of people's energetic fields. And, my gift is to help people to restore harmony in their state of being, in their state of energy, so that in essence, they can start playing more beautiful music throughout their life experience. And it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite little analogies. You could be the best guitarist in the world, but if your strings aren't in tune, it's not going to matter. I don't care how well you play the guitar, the game of life. If you are in a state of disharmony, you're never going to play beautiful music. You're never going to create your desired outcome. You have to restore harmony and balance within your energetic field and your state of being. And that means you need to rise above all the things that are putting us into a state of disharmony, and also let go of all those old stories of lack, limitation, not good enough, I don't deserve. We all have them to one degree or another, and put those stories down, because they are also putting us into this state of disharmony. And when we commit ourselves to that process and actively engage on a day-to-day basis to tuning our strings, so to speak, then we open up the door to really, playing beautiful music throughout our lives, making our lives a beautiful symphony, which I think is something that we truly all desire.
Now, I've tested your music here in Michigan on hundreds of people over the years, and using the strength test that you demonstrate in one of your videos, and it tends to blow people's minds. I've done it with frail elderly ladies to strong guys, and it's consistently produced the same results. And so there's definitely something going on there. Have you had any other kind of analysis done by NASA or any other organization, or even maybe yourself, with your music that's gives you a little bit more clarity as to what exactly is going on there?
The only other thing that I've seen that's any kind of formal testing, so to speak, is Dr. Jones and his group of people were doing brain mapping. And so it was interesting how he first discovered that music had the ability to shift energy in this particular way. Was somebody had given him a recording of an Indian monk by the name of Paramahansa Yogananda chanting. And so this was like a recording from back 1930s, 1940s of him chanting. And what they did was they looked at what took place in brainwave activity when they were listening to this guy chant. And what they actually saw was a harmonization in brainwaves. And Doc was kind of, he was, shall we say, kind of a sarcastic, spicy character. And he said, he goes, I like Paramahansa like the next person. He goes, but the guy can't chant worth a damn. Let's go see if we can find music that'll do the same thing. So that's when they started looking for different, they started testing Mozart. They started testing all these different types of music to see what the response would be in a physiological level, like with the strength testing, what you were talking about, but also on a brainwave level. And what they wanted to see and what they noticed in their study was that all of us are walking through lives and our brainwaves are in a state of disharmony, because we are literally being interrupted and impacted by the up to over 80,000 man-made chemicals in our air, food, and water. Now with a look at the exponential growth of cell towers, the exponential growth of Wi-Fi. I mean, heck, if I set up a Wi-Fi in my own house, I see 9 different Wi-Fis are beaming through my house. We are literally been submerged into an environment filled with static and noise. And that static and noise is basically putting the 4 main frequency ranges in the brain into a state of disharmony. And so what they noticed through their brain mapping was that when the music played, just as when they played it with this recording of Paramahansa chanting, there's a harmonization in brain waves and an activation in different frequencies that are inherent to higher consciousness levels. And so that was the only other piece at this particular point in time, that I've had any kind of exposure to. We've had some conversations with some people about measuring cortisol levels and different things to that effect, but none of those processes have actually been put into place yet, but we're in the process of exploring that right now. Other than that, it's the most prominent thing, of course, is the physical test and expressions, because this is an outpicturing of what happens when you tune your energy, is that you will have an instant increase in strength, flexibility, endurance, coordination, and balance. And so that's always my favorite one. That's the one that blows people's minds. And, I love doing it with skeptics, because it's very hard for a skeptic to deny what they actually experience through their senses. In fact, if not impossible, even though they might say, oh, come on, man, you did something with the test different or whatever. But I mean, to me, that's always the favorite. That's the one that just blows people's minds.
Yeah, I found the same thing's true with the strength test when I've done it here. Sometimes I have guys in the audience who, or even women, but mostly it's men who have an engineering background or are very left-brained, and they're really coming on stage with a very confused look on their face, fully expecting the test to fail. And when it actually works on them, they have the most perplexed look on their face. They just cannot understand how that just happened. And sometimes they want me to do it over again, just to see. Yeah.
It's funny. I have to throw this in real quick because I was one of those guys. Okay. You know, as a very left brain, you know, I used to have the picture of Mr. Spock up on my office wall because logic was the key to living, you know, an enlightened life, I guess. And I remember I was in Dr. Jones's office and I said, Doc, come on, man, this whole music thing. Come on, Doc, you're full of it. That's what I told him. He said, let me show you something. And so he put me into one of a physical test. It was an applied kinesiology test. He didn't even play the music. He took the CD case, okay, and tucked it in the top of my shirt. And it was like my leg, I was doing a one-legged balance test. And it was like my leg became cement. I'm like going, okay, I can't. I had that perplexed look that you're talking about. I could not explain what I was experiencing. And what even blew my mind even further was he wasn't even playing the music. It was just the CD in the case. I'm like going, that is just absolutely crazy. So I can definitely relate to the engineer look. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more breakthroughs coming out of the whole vibrational healing field. And actually, on a side note, there's a company in Russia, I think it's called New Pharma or New Farm or something like that. I can't remember, but they have a drug and nutritional supplement database, and you go to their website and you select whatever, you know, let's say you want, let's say holy basil or something, or reishi mushroom or some kind of herbal supplement, or even an actual pharmaceutical drug. You enter that into their website. And what it does is it sends this data to your computer, which you download, you burn onto a CD, and then you put a glass of water on top of the CD, and a minute or two later, you drink the water, and the water apparently absorbs the vibration of the from the CD. And apparently it has the effects of the pharmaceutical drug or the nutritional supplement without any side effects. So yeah, so very interesting things coming out in that field nowadays. But anyway, you were talking earlier about Yogananda, and I know a lot of people, and maybe some people are doing this with you now as well, but I've noticed even myself that not only does in your case, I'm guessing that not only does the music carry this vibration, but probably your voice does as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people who follow a particular spiritual master, they tend to put their pictures on the wall, and if they're sensitive to energy, they feel the effects of that. So it seems like whatever this consciousness or energy is that is working through you into the music is embodied in every aspect of who you are. So if I put a picture of Mark Romero on my wall, it might have the same effect as carrying a CD in my pocket or listening to your music. Does that make any sense?
I haven't actually tested that out. I mean, it's like I suppose so. Hey, I'm gonna give it a try and see what happens. I've never even thought of that. I'm kind of a modest guy, so the idea of get your Mark Romero picture and hang it up on your office wall never entered my mind. So, but I'm going to try it after our call today and see what happens. I'll let you know. Well, I think it's important I think it's interesting that you bring that up, because I have to share this story real quick. I got connected to this Indian gentleman. It's probably a couple years ago now. And he was listening to some music, from some anointed master in India. And it would create a physiological and consciousness shift in him when he listened to it. It would help deepen his meditative process and, enhance his connection to God, as he put it. And so we met, and we were in a little mastermind thing together. And I gave him a CD. And he came back to the next meeting, And he was like visually upset. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, man, he goes, I played your CD. And he goes, it created all the same physiological response, consciousness shift, everything that this anointed music from this master in India does. But you're not an anointed master. You don't have the beads and the beard and all that stuff and the thing on my head. I say, I say, this is something that we all need to realize. And it goes back to this field of energy and quantum physics and vibrational medicine and then some. We are all wielders of energy. We are all expressions of the same oneness. We're all tapped into the same greatness that anybody else is tapped into. It's just different degrees of whether we've been able to access it or not, for obviously a whole assortment of different reasons why we wouldn't be able to. And it's all there. It's available to us. But I'll never forget it, because it really did kind of upset him. I should have given him a picture at that particular point in time.
Well, that time may very well be coming. So
that's funny.
Well, I sent you a message a little while back, and I don't know if you had any more time to think about this, but you're familiar with the solfeggio scale, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever explored whether or not there's any relationship between that scale and your music?
No, I haven't. I mean, I when I hear the solfeggio or frequency tunings, I really look at that as being more of traditional, what I would call sound healing. Obviously it's crossed my path. People have sent me articles. I've studied it. I've looked at it. I've played with it a little bit. And, so once again, it kind of goes back to this thing. It's not so much specific to the notes and tones that I play as it is to the energy that's coming through me, and really kind of using the music as a vehicle. So, that is a whole body in itself. I kind of look at that. There's a whole field of work around what are the effects of specific notes, tones, and tunings to planet frequencies and different things to that effect. Solfeggio scales, tunings of the actual instrument itself. I mean, there's a whole domain and certainly tremendous amount of viability about the impacts of crystal bowls and stuff when you sound them around you and how they impact your body and your chakras and things. And there are certainly, these are things that I've experienced myself. But I don't necessarily really kind of classify myself in that genre, because it's, like I said, it's not really about notes and tones. It's about, and I remember it used to kind of frustrate Dr. Jones, because he goes, I don't know how you got access to these frequencies. It's not like you had any kind of religious or holy experience, or, the sky opened up and a bright light shined upon you or something like that. And he said, no. He goes, you were probably at some Pink Floyd concert smoking funny cigarettes, man. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Doc. But, so I there's certainly a whole body of work that's definitely a tremendous tool to help us once again reconnect ourselves to the divine. I kind of, I've managed to kind of position myself in a different way and really kind of open up to the other aspects beyond using sound as a vehicle to create the harmonizing effects within a person's energy field.
So you're really not so much of a sound therapist as really, it sounds to me like you're more like a spiritual master, and what makes you unique is not necessarily the music, but the consciousness that is flowing through you into the music that seems to be manifesting as this unique tone or tones in the music. Is that
well,
sense?
In essence, yeah. I remember the first time he told me about the spiritual master thing, and I kind of felt uncomfortable with it. But in essence, yeah, it's something that flows through me, flows into the music. It flows through my voice. I can do hands-on. I can do remote work. I can shift disruptive energy producers such as a cell phone, or I did this demonstration the other day, which like really blew people's minds. It was a subtle energy conference actually a couple months ago. And I took 2 Diet Cokes, which of course, are probably one of the most bad for you drinks that you could possibly drink for a number of different reasons, aspartame, chemicals, different things. And of course, when you do applied kinesiology testing with them, it always makes the body go weak, as the body would to such a drink like that. And so I energized one of them. I guess in essence, you could say, some people would say, well, you blessed it. Okay. Well, I took that energized Diet Coke, put it in somebody's hand, and did this physical testing on them. And they had all of the shifts that take place when the music plays in the environment. And this, now talk about tests that'll blow people's minds. That one, and because this is a pretty enlightened group of people, that one blew their minds. And this was when I really kind of became aware, was that any disruptive, disharmonious energy can be made into being harmonious. And there is no limitation except the limitation that our own minds put upon the process. So for me, I was interested, experimented with it. And to this day, 2 months later, I can take that same Diet Coke and do tests with it, and it still holds the energetic frequency and creates all the shifts in energy that the music would, or pendant, or, like the pendants that I have would. And so to me, that's just was really an eye-opening experiment. And, so it's kind of exciting because I think there's a way for us to rise above the static and noise of all the things in our modern day world that are disconnecting us, interrupting our connection to the ultimate super internet, which is pure consciousness, which we're all expressions of. And obviously, we want to enhance that connection. We want to, make that connection as good as possible so that we can really, truly create the lives that we want to create and step into our power and our innate ability to shape and shift matter around us and experience that process.
So what if I had a Diet Coke in my house and I played your music all day and night long? Would that Diet Coke and everything else in my environment automatically become harmonious to my health and stay that way?
Well, what I've seen with music and stuff is usually it's an on-off effect thing. Now, there is an accumulative process that I've noticed, but I haven't done a prolonged study or, my own experimentation on something to that effect. What I do know is that in essence, when you're playing that music in your environment, you're actually, for lack of better terms, raising your vibration. So we can look at, let's say we can use Diet Coke as an example, or a cell phone. Okay, we know that if we break them down to their atom structure, their vibration, their energy vibrating at different frequencies, right? They happen to be a very low vibration. And that's why they have their detrimental effects upon us, upon our health, and upon our energy. But when you play this music in the environment, in essence, really rise yourself above the frequency range in which those things are broadcasting, where they no longer impact you negatively. And so this is kind of like the best analogy for my own understanding, but also to help other people to understand, was, let's say, everything that is disharmonious, genetically modified foods, Diet Coke, cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, just to use a couple examples. And to simplify it, let's say they broadcast at 88.5. And we all operate in the world at 88.5. Well, what if we were able to slide you from 88.5 to 92.7? Well, then at 92.7, you're not receiving what's broadcasting at 88.5 anymore. So in essence, your energy is no longer being compromised with it, because you're not even within the vibrational frequency range for it to even impact you anymore. And this has been the best explanation of what I've seen of what happens. Like if you were to do an applied kinesiology test with a Diet Coke, and this would be interesting to try out, the person's going to go weak, right? And you play the music in the environment, repeat the test, they don't go weak anymore. So what does that mean? That means that in essence, you've been able to shift your own energy to where no longer that impacts you. Now, it doesn't mean tomorrow I'm going to recommend that we all, play the music and drink Diet Cokes. That's not what I'm recommending at all. But I think it opens up to the possibility how we can be in the world and not of it, how we can actually find a way to rise above the static noise from all the miscreations that have been put into our environment and still enhance that connection to the field, to that field of unlimited possibility. And what we do is we begin to operate at an optimal level. It's funny. My wife, Dr. Lara, told me the other day, she goes, you're like a physical representation of what happens with your energy in tune. She goes, look at your two brother-in-laws. I have two brother-in-laws. One's the same age as me. One's younger. They both look older than me. They look worked. I hope they're not listening to this call. Sorry, guys, if you are. But, and people do not guess me for my age. And they say, well, even my own mother was like, are you sure you don't color your hair? I said, no, I don't color my hair. I got grays now because I have daughters, and they're starting to sprout now because just the whole dynamic that shows up with having kids. But, people do not guess me for being 52. And I think it really is a testimonial of what happens, because you think about it, I play music all the time. I'm exposed to the energy all the time. I don't think I'm being negatively impacted by things like, let's go back to the example of my brother-in-laws, and I see people that are my age and they look 10 years older than I do. Why is that? Well, once again, if our energy is constantly being disrupted, how well are we going to operate? How good are we going to function? And one of the analogies that I love to use, because of course, being a former tech guy, and I think it's something we can all relate to, because I would venture to say that most of us have Wi-Fi in our house, and we have a wireless connection to the internet, and we have a portable device, whether it's our cell phone, a laptop, or a pad, and we have a wireless connection. The same model applies to you and me. We're like super biological computers connected to the ultimate super internet. We have a wireless connection to all the information that we need to transform our lives, to heal our bodies, and to transform the world that we live in. But if you sever that connection, how well are you going to operate? If you sever the connection, you get too far away from your Wi-Fi router with your iPad, how well is it going to operate? It's not going to operate very well at all. In fact, it's in a state of disharmony. It's not going to function. And this is what's happening in the world today, and why so many of us are suffering from disharmonious lives, because we are literally disconnected ourselves from the field. And I saw a great piece about Schumann's resonance, about the pulse of the planet, and how all life is connected into the pulse of the planet, and how with all the Wi-Fi and cell phones and smart meters, and now smart meters are coming on your gas meters and your water meters. So, coming soon to a theater near you, even more of these things that are producing microwave burst pulse radiation that is radiating through our environment. All that has disconnected us from the pulse of the planet, from the pulse of life itself. And now they're starting to tie into the decrease of migratory birds, the decrease in bee population, being because of all the static and noise that we put into our environment. And what we need to do is we need to find a way to rise above the static and noise so that we can still enhance that connection and operate at a level that we were designed. And so that's kind of how I see all this work kind of folding in as really being a vehicle to be able to do just that, to be able to rise above it. Because I don't think, I've heard this from other pieces, if we ate better quality foods and drank better quality water, we wouldn't age to the level that we're aging. Well, what if, let's say, just as an example, we're not getting away from any of this stuff anytime soon. So fine, let's just eliminate the negative effects it has upon us and continue our consciousness evolution and the awakening to our own power. And then literally we can begin to redesign this world from a whole quantum level, and back to what you mentioned earlier about vibrational healing and vibrational medicine, where we can basically, we're coming to the point where we'll be able to resolve disharmonious energy out of the body and enhance the body's connection to its innate intelligence to heal itself, to refine itself, to keep itself young and vibrant. And I think, just think about the next 10 years of what we're going to unfold into as we step more and more into the possibility of living life from the quantum level.
Yeah, I've had some very interesting experiences as well using energy for healing, and my focus is primarily in the consciousness field. But I have had people who have had serious health crisis, and like, for example, a few months ago, there was a woman who, actually, her boyfriend contacted me, and her doctors had given her, I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks to live or something, and she's still well and fine. And the main thing that we did in the beginning was just put her on a weekly energy transmission program. And so it sounds like, and I want to relate this to another interview that I just did a week ago with a guy by the name of Tom Palladino. He developed these devices that utilize scalar energy. Do you know what scalar energy is? I'm sure you must, right?
I am familiar, and I'm familiar with his work too. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I'll be putting out that interview soon. So he developed these devices, and these devices he's now treating about 2,000 people per day just using their pictures, and with remarkable results. And in my conversation with him, he foresees a future where we're heading more and more into a scalar environment, and he differentiates between, for example, electromagnetic fields and microwave fields and so on as being the opposite of scalar energy, whereas those things are really quite detrimental to health. Scalar energy actually enhances health. And so he foresees a future where we'll be using scalar energy to transmit wireless signals, and using scalar energy for a variety of things. And so just simply by living your day-to-day life, your health will be better, and you'll live longer, and you'll look younger, and so on. Some of the things you're describing as a side effect of you working with this energy and playing this music, that you look younger than your brother-in-laws. So, now, have you ever thought about whether or not, and in his opinion, all healing energy is scalar energy? So the energy that I work with, and from his perspective, he would say the energy that you're working with is also a scalar energy. It comes from some sort of divine source. And would you have any comment on that, or have you ever thought about that?
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think, how can you define with words the unlimited field of possibility? There's many names. I've heard it called scalar energy before. People have even called the work that I do scalar energy. I don't define it as that. I just kind of define it more as what it does, as opposed to actually putting a name on it. But, I absolutely, I think this is, in essence, we're all projections and expressions of this divine force of energy, scalar energy, life source energy, whatever you want to define it or call it. And, I think this is the thing that we're all waking up to. And that, in essence, I love out of the old Vedic traditions from the Upanishads that, consciousness is the creator. They called that energy consciousness, okay? And that in everything that thou art, which is another mantra that comes through it, that everything is made of consciousness. You and me, the table, everything is made of consciousness. And then in essence, the next level of the meditation or the mantras would be, my consciousness is the creator. In other words, our consciousness creates our experience. I think many of us are waking that up to that today. And ultimately, the final level of the mantra process is, I am the creator. In other words, fully absorbing and realizing that there is only one field of energy, and that is consciousness. And that consciousness is the creator, God, life force energy, whatever you want to call it. And that, in essence, each and every one of us is that. What we have to do is remove the programming that tells us that we're contrary to that, and remove the obstacles that are trying to prevent us from connecting into that, realizing that, embodying that, and living that. And, I think that's the challenge for all of us, really, to open up, to embody that, to get connected to that, to realize that, I'm the composer of my life. We're the composers of this world. And that through our own thought, belief process, what it is that we focus our attention upon, we can shape and shift matter, which is nothing but energy crystallized, I guess. We can shape and shift it into whatever it is that we desire. And I think if enough of us get together on the same page, we can basically shape and shift the world into something that's much more harmonious, something that works, where we don't see all the junk that we see that the media is trying to force feed us on a day-to-day basis. And in essence, in my mind, really manipulating us to create a disharmonious world. Well, I don't know about you, but a disharmonious world, a disharmonious song doesn't sound very good. So let's compose a new piece. Let's compose a new symphony. And in order for that to happen, we need to restore harmony. We need to tune our strings and really step into being just as powerful as we really all are.
I know you mentioned earlier that you have, I think just in the past year, moved more toward using just the energy as opposed to using the music to transmit the energy. And I know you've done some experiments with smart meters and other things as well. And now that's one of the service offerings that you have. Are you familiar with Josh Del Sol, the documentary on smart meters called Take Back Your Power? Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
That's a great piece.
Yeah. Josh was just out here, actually. I think he might still be here just a couple of days ago doing a screening. And in the film, there is I don't know if you remember, there's a college where all the kids who are in this one dorm room end up getting cancer, and they end up dying of cancer. And so year after year after year, that exact same room, and it turned out that there was a cell tower located right outside that particular building. And so now you've had some interesting results with the use of that your energy on protecting people against smart meters. Have you? Can you share some of the results you've had?
It's funny because that was really kind of an area I was kind of uncomfortable into moving into. For my own, because like I said, people said, "Oh, come on, Mark, this was like an easy transition for you." No, it wasn't. I mean, the first time my wife, Dr. Lara, told me I was a healer, I said, don't talk to me about that stuff, man. That's the kind of stuff they tie you to a tree and they set you on fire, man. I don't want nothing to do with that. And that was literally, I've had to deal with that, for whatever reason. I've heard this happen with other people that work with energy, that have healing gifts and abilities. They have to work through their own inner resistance. So for me, it was a definite stretch to send energy to a smart meter. It was like my left brain part of me, the old Mr. Spock part or whatever, just said, that is not rational. That's not logical. But yet, I've done experiments with people where I've taken them in front of a smart meter and done applied kinesiology testing. And of course they go weak, fall on over, the whole shot, send energy to the smart meter, put the person back in front of it, and they are as solid as a rock. Once again, like what happens when your energy's in tune and in harmony. And I've gone back and I've tested them, smart meters just about a year ago now, since the first one. Cell phones probably was about 4 years ago now, the very first cell phone that I energized. And it still works today and still harmonizes and still tunes energy, even when you're on the phone making a phone call, which just dramatically increases the amount of disruptive waves that you're being exposed to. So this has been kind of the area that, it's still something I'm still kind of working into. It's like I don't really kind of outwardly advertise, get your smart meter energized. Today's a special for $9.95 or something. There's a part of me that still kind of disconnects on that. But I've had people who are familiar with my work who have asked certain things and said, hey, I don't care about your inner resistance, dude. I want you to energize my smart meter, and have been able to do so. And I think the longest ones I've tested now are just about a year ago, and they still produce an optimal energetic response when standing in front of them. So for me, that's intriguing stuff. That's kind of cool. And quite honestly, just, my own humanity still shows up. It's like I'd like to say I'm 100% comfortable with that, but yet there's still part of me that kind of goes, ooh, I don't know, man. That's kind of out there, man. Kind of brings me back to that conversation once again when, Dr. Lara told me I was a healer, and a little bit of that physiological response that takes place when that first came up. It's not as dramatic as it used to be, but it still does rear its head from time to time.
Yeah, I imagine for a corporate guy, that's quite a big deal to wrap your head around.
Just a little bit. Thank God I was a big Star Wars fan, and got, exposed to the whole idea of the Force and everything. So there's a part of me that's intrigued by it. But then there's that old, corporate guy part that says, hey, man, if I don't have a 250-page scientific analysis manual and experience it through my senses and all that stuff, heck, even then, even if I do experience it through my senses, I'm still like, we could still go, I don't believe it, and it's just like funny, interesting, the games we play with ourselves.
I'd like to talk a bit about the special workshop you're holding at our April Expo in Michigan in the United States. It's called Energy Clearing and Healing, and I'd like to read the description of the workshop that you gave us. Every day we're exposed to countless energy disruptors that put our energy into a state of disharmony, negatively impacting our health and levels of consciousness. Join Mark Romero as he takes participants through a transformative healing experience to raise them above the static and noise of the modern world, dramatically reducing stress, enhancing body's ability to heal itself, and expanding awareness. Mark will also energize up to 2 portable electronic devices for each participant, protecting them from the negative effects. Can you give a little bit more detail about exactly what will take place at this workshop and what people will learn?
Yeah, actually what we're going to do is we're going to dive into, in essence, taking people through a very interactive process of refining and tuning their energy. So in essence, refining is removing out lower disruptive energy that we hold in our field. We all get exposed to them every day, and we all get to deal with them on different levels. So what we're going to actually do is we're actually going to refine our energy. In other words, let go and dissipate and release of discordant, disruptive energy, lower vibrational, that's not serving us. And in essence, to really kind of get that out of the way. We're also going to tune our energy. And what does that mean? It's really about, the word that pops in my head is align, okay? It's about aligning ourselves with what our desires are. What is it that we want to create? What is it that we want to manifest? We each come here with something that's been etched upon our heart and soul. That's for us to express. Well, what gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of us expressing that? What's tormented me, on and off in the years and me stepping into what I do? And those are, those are part of those lower density vibrations that we're going to be clearing out, but we're also going to be aligning you with what it is that you do wish to create and manifest, which your higher self or your soul's calling wants to express, and dramatically enhance that ability to manifest that. Dramatically enhance that ability to have it show up and shape and shift in your external world. I love the old analogy, ask and you shall receive. Well, ask is that vision, it's that dream. The receiving part and what holds that up is all the stuff that says contrary. It's those limiting thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, interrupters, disruptors that inhibit that process. And so what we're actually going to do is get very clear on our asking and do an energetic process that will align you with that and remove the obstacles and the barriers that are preventing it from showing up in your experience. So this is all part of the refinement and the tuning process that align you with that. So I'm actually going to take you through a process, and not only are we going to do this as a group, but also everybody within the group, I'm going to do a personal energy harmonization for them while we're in the process. It's all part of the process. Everybody's going to have their energetic field tuned. And the reason why I thought it was important to bring the portable device was that, these are things that we carry with us all the time. We're like, it's like we all carry our cell phones with us and our technology. We can't leave home without it. My gosh, people don't even talk to each other anymore. They just text and say, gosh, I had such a great conversation with grandma after texting her 2 or 3 times, and there was no verbal communication. So and this is a great creator of disharmony in our life. So it really gives the ability to walk out the door and be able to carry your technology with you, because let's face it, we're not giving up our social media, our Pinterest and our Facebook and all that good stuff. And, it is a great vehicle to be able to deliver our messages and what it is that we want to say and connect with people around the world. Well, now we have the ability to where at least we won't be so negatively impacted by what we're carrying in our pockets with us. So it's really, it's going to be a fun experience. It's very interactive. It's, very energizing, obviously. And, also you'll really walk out the door with just not only with your energy refined and tuned, but you'll also have some great tools to be able to just minimize, the effects, obviously, of what it is that we're being exposed to that put us out of tune. Because, I don't just tune my guitar once and never tune it again. I have to tune it all the time. And the same thing applies to you and me. And one of the biggest disruptors and that can put your strings out of tune is your own cell phone, because you carry it with you on your body all the time. Most of us, we don't leave home without it. It's there on the side of our bed at night. And, so it's just a great place to really, really provide an opportunity to not only refine and tune, but maintain that state as much as possible.
A number of years ago, I became really fascinated with The Secret when it first came out, and I chased down a lot of the people who were featured on The Secret and studied under them and applied the law of attraction. And of course, I've been an astrologer for over 20 years now. So I was, and one thing that I, at first with The Secret, was a little confused by is not everybody who applies the law of attraction principles gets everything that they want. And even myself, I achieved some results and didn't achieve other results, and some people I knew achieved no results, or they went backwards. And so it seems to me now in our, especially Western culture, because of our marketing and the prevalence of the mainstream media and so on, I think people don't really know what they want, and so everybody tends to want the same things. Everybody wants, expensive cars and big houses and things like that. When I was in my 30s, my goal was to become a real estate millionaire, and I looked up to Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering, in your perception of law of attraction, do you see that everyone, if somebody intends to get any particular thing, that they can get everything that they want whenever they want it, or is there some other divine principle at work that is guiding us in the direction of what we, what we should have?
Well, I think that's kind of a multifolded answer. I think I do believe this. I believe that we produce a resonance, okay? And this life is a masterful design, okay? It is just the most freaking amazing design there is. If you think about it, it's like, what a better way to know yourself than to project it out upon the movie screen of your life experience. So that means you get to know the good, and even though I hate to use the terms good and bad, you get to know the optimal and the not so optimal, shall we say. And it's a feedback system that's available to us. So when we have challenges in our life, traditionally what we do is we react to them. We call them colorful metaphors. We fight them. We resist them. But what would open up for us if we were just to shift our perspective of them and look at them as being a calling to evolve to another level? It's like the subconscious makes itself known across the movie screen of our life every day. And so when we ask for something and it doesn't show up right away, well, what's in the way of that? What is in the way? And is it really optimal what it is that we're asking for? Because it's interesting, you brought up the aspect about cars and, widgets and all the cool stuff. We're all seeking the same thing. We're all seeking harmony. We're all seeking fulfillment. We're all seeking meaning. It's just how we think we're going to get it. Vastly different in people. You know, some people, like I myself, what we were talking about earlier, you wanted to be the Donald Trump guy. I wanted to be the sales wheeler dealer guy and get $100,000 commission checks and drive an SL 500 and all that good stuff. And, you know, I did all that, but realized, well, that's not what's going to make me happy. That's not what's going to bring me fulfillment. That's not going to bring me harmony in my life experience. And, you know, so I think that things unfold different. And there's a key word that shows up in this whole creative process, and that is detachment. Because I can tell you right now, just speaking from personal experience, man, life is not going to unfold to your time frame and schedule. And I think what happens with a lot of these people that are implementing these practices that are new, they say, man, 3 months down the road, this shit doesn't work. You know, they get frustrated and they give up and they move on. They say, what a bunch of BS, this whole law of attraction thing, you know. But life never unfolds in our own time schedule. And we do continually have to work to removing the barriers that are preventing the things that we wish to create and manifest in our lives. And I think there's an old statement, you know, when I write my creative statements and get some clarity around what it is that I want to create and manifest in my life, I always say this or something better. Because what I think down here on ground level in the trenches here might not necessarily be the highest good and the best for me from my higher self perspective. That perspective that has the 4 million mile high view that can see things that I can't see in my life. You know, I'm stuck within the illusion of time. There's an aspect of us that realizes there is no time. Time is a perception. It's a creation of the mind. There's only one moment, the eternal moment, the present moment. When have we ever lived our life in anything but the present moment? You know, but we've created this concept and this construct of time where there's a past, present, and future. But there really isn't. And that's why I love, you know, ask and it's given. It's already here. It's just whether or not it's shown up in your experience is another story. And ultimately, the more that I feel that we get ourselves refined and tuned, the more are we going to get clear of what it is that we do wish to manifest and create, but also enhance our abilities to create and manifest, but always leaving the door open for this or something better. And as we continue to evolve our consciousness, we realize that some of the things that we ask for, just as you were talking about becoming the next Donald Trump, you know, and for me, I saw that as being, you know, the shiny car and the big portfolio and all that stuff. That changes as you move down the road, kind of realize, oh, you know what, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me. It certainly didn't, you know, help me feel more enlightened or more connected to the divine. So I think there's a lot of leeway, and we have to allow this whole creative process to unfold organically in its own way, and realize and to approach it, shall I say, with a more of a detached mind and allowing things to unfold, but yet always continually working on removing the obstacles that say, oh, I can't be a healer guy. That's too out there, woo woo. You know, I can't go energize somebody's disruptive technology. That's too out there, you know, and those are what we're all in the process of letting go of. You know, the thoughts, the beliefs, the perceptions that inhibit our ability to shape and shift the world around us, and prevent us from connecting to our essence, to our divine essence.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is the idea of getting into harmony using things such as like what you're going to be teaching at this workshop is going to refocus a person to be able to understand what their unique purpose is here in this life, so that they can, so that they will start wanting to attract the things that are unique to them, that would make them happy, as opposed to going for the real estate or the expensive car, which may not be what they really want, but they have no idea what that is now because they're out of harmony.
Well, or their awareness just isn't that high. I mean, you know, look at if we go back and we look over our history in our lives, look at how our awareness has expanded. And what we saw, because like way back when, as I mentioned earlier, I got presented with this paradigm, this model that, if you go out there and climb all the way up to the top of the corporate ladder and make good money and have the portfolio and the shiny car, you're going to be happy, content, and fulfilled. And that's what fueled my life until I realized that I had gotten there and realized, whoa, okay, that's not the truth. That's not, so my awareness expanded. And see, when we're in harmony, our awareness expands. And it's a constant process because there are always new levels of awareness. The universe is never done evolving. It's evolving through all of us. It's expanding. It's becoming more than it was before. And, so there are always new levels of awareness to unfold into. Day you run into troubles when you think you know it all, because you know what? You don't. None of us do. I mean, there's always, there's this push, this drive within us to expand, unfold like the flower, and it's never done, kind of like the lotus flower, never done unfolding, always new levels to unfold into. And that's the essence kind of life itself. So as we go through these different levels of awareness, our perception or our desire of what it is that we want or what we think will make us happy changes in our life experience. So I go back 20 years, man, that has completely changed from where I was 20 years ago to now. Oh my gosh, it's like night and day. And I think this is part of the journey that we're all on. And obviously we all have different levels of awareness, and we're at different levels in our own spiritual growth and evolution. And, so when we enhance our connection, we have the ability to speed that process up, to enhance that process, and to continue to unfold to these different levels of awareness, where really we come to the point, I guess, I don't know, where we realize that we are the divine experiencing itself, and that we're here to experience, and out of experience, we evolve. It's one thing to know something. It's another thing to go experience it. Then you know it at a whole nother level. So, it's just this, amazing thing. And I certainly don't have all the answers, but I'm certainly committed to learning all that I can and discovering all that I can, and continuing my own personal evolution and helping others to enhance their own personal evolution. Because I'm convinced that the most determinant factor that's going to transform the world that we live in is each and every one of us getting connected to our divine essence and expressing our unique gifts, talents, our music, our essence into the world. That's going to be the transformative power, the catalyst for change that we're all looking for in the world today.
Now, I'm because of the work that I do, I'm aware of a lot of the really interesting things happening in the world. There's I don't know if you've heard about the sports car. Actually, you probably like this car. It's a sports car. I believe it's in Belgium, if I remember correctly. It runs on a saltwater fuel cell, and so basically it does need to be refilled every so often, but basically it's running on salt water. And there's a company out in Canada that I've been meaning to go out there, and they are actually in production now, by the end of this month, starting to sell a generator that runs on water, and their highest model can run your average house. Now, it is a portable unit, so you'll have to run extension cords from it, but still, it's pretty. Not that technology is anything revolutionary. It's been around for a long time, but it's been suppressed. But just the fact that these things are making it out into the mainstream world is pretty remarkable in terms of our modern society and where we've been for the last several hundred years. Now, where do you think, from your observations of how your work is evolving and maybe what you're observing in the world and, through your work and other people where do you see us going in the future as a global consciousness, and also in our material life experiences?
Well, I think we're going to see an exponential shift in things. And with that, of course, we're going to see some old models and paradigms begin to break down, like we already are. I mean, just the fact that there's car companies that are coming out now and doing, certainly, just from a from a perspective of what Tesla has been able to do here with an electric car, with this generator company that you're speaking about, where before things to that effect were really suppressed and not brought out and made available to us. Now we're seeing it more and more as these things are becoming prevalent. I think we're going to see tremendous changes obviously take place in our financial system. I think a huge obstacle that has been prevented humanity from really stepping into its greatness has been the bondage with money and finances. And, imagine what would open up if we were able to generate electricity, for example, for our cars and for our homes without the need for financial resources to do so. I mean, it's just, I think we're going to see all of these systems change and take place. And I think what's really cool, what's happening now is we're seeing these things beginning to come out. And I think that we really have to tap into the great visionaries that are within all of us and really start seeing a world that works, where we see more innovation, where we see more changes taking place in health. I mean, because let's face it, there's going to be changes that take place there also. There already are things I've seen, pieces come out about some of the work they're doing in China, where they're actually going in and changing things on a quantum molecular field and removing cancer out of the body. Well, that's going to have a tremendous change on everything, because, I mean, if we see this happen across on a global level, which I believe we are going to within the next 20 years, guess what? Then money and the pharmaceutical aspect kind of goes by the wayside. A lot of these old models that have not, shall we say, optimized the expansion of humanity, I think we're going to see a tremendous breakdown in many of these things. And I think the day will come ultimately where we're going to be able to free ourselves from the bondage of having to make money and pay bills and all these different things, which has been a great inhibitor for humanity. And, these are, I think, the things that are opening up, and they're only going to continue to open up more and more as more and more of us become aware of generator companies and car companies that are doing amazing things like this. And it's going to be, where 20 years ago, that would have been thought an impossibility. But now it's like, oh, wait a second, man, this is all right around the corner. And I think we're going to see some amazing shifts take place really on a high level as we move forward from here, as we continue to speed things up and shift. And just, from a health perspective, from all aspects really of our life, in our relationships and why we engage in relationships and what can open up through communication and expression of feelings, the movement of energy, the awareness of energy, the awareness of ourselves being energy, are going to have such tremendous effects. And I think, the future looks great, but we need to envision it now as if it already exists, because in essence, it already is beginning to reveal itself to us. The possibility of a world that is in harmony, that does work. And so, I'm going to hold the space on that, so we won't have 20 million wars going on and people always trying to blow each other up and stuff to that effect, and really open up to, hey, where people can work together, where people can play music together. And it would be an amazing experience to take the analogy of the symphony and have the pieces of the orchestra all come together and play on the same sheet of music. What would be the potential if we were to apply that metaphor to the world, and all these different instruments and different people and different cultures come together and realize, hey, you know what, we're all one. Let's play this piece of music and see what kind of music we can create. And I think we could really, truly create an extraordinary planet that works. And that's what I'm holding the space for. And certainly I'm doing everything that I can on my part to help people tune their strings and realize their power and open up to their greatness and expand their awareness and tap into this possibility.
In a number, quite a while ago, actually, it's been, I don't even remember how many years, probably about 10 years ago, I was an avid sun gazer, and I used to go out in the morning and in the evening, and I'd sun gaze those 2 hours a day. And one of the side effects that a lot of people experience from sun gazing is that they become more peaceful. They become calmer, more loving, and they just have a sense of greater happiness and joy inside. And Now, I've had similar results from your music. A couple of years ago when I first found out about you, I bought one of your CDs, and I would play it in the background at events that we did. And I remember distinctly I had an astrology group that met once a month, and people would just come who wanted advice, and a few of us who were astrologers would just, do mini readings for everybody. And on one occasion, this new guy showed up, an older gentleman, and one of my astrologer friends is a very passionate guy, especially when it comes to politics, and you don't want to get him talking about politics. And anyway, so he was going on and on about some political issue, I don't remember what, and of course I had this music playing in the background, and at a certain point, somebody in the audience asked me, would you turn down the music just a little bit so I can hear a little better? And so I did, and I said, but there's a reason why I'm playing the music, and I explained why. And so this new gentleman who was in the audience said, is that why I've been so calm? Because normally when somebody is having that kind of an intense conversation about politics that I disagree with, I would have stood up and voiced my opinion very strongly, and he was totally calm and relaxed in that situation. So have you had any actual do you have any stories to share about people and how their tendencies toward violence or aggression might have been affected by the music or the energy that you're using?
I've had a ton of people, because I live in Southern California, and this is like the traffic heaven of the world. Because everybody's moved here from Michigan and from Chicago and, Boston and New York and stuff to escape the weather, I guess. So they all live here and they all have a car. And so traffic can be really tough here. And there's this thing, we have this term out here, it's called road rage, where people just get angry. I mean, if I had to drive that stuff every day, I'd be angry too. And I've had, multiple testimonials from people who have a track record of cursing people and using colorful metaphors while driving, dramatically reduce their stress levels while playing the music while they're commuting. These are people that have, maybe a 40-mile commute every day for work or whatever, and 40 miles in LA, Orange County can, take you 2 hours, so it's like they've noticed this decline. I've had people who, truck drivers, for example. I had a gentleman who sent me a note saying, hey, man, I grind my teeth. I'm stressed out driving all the time. I'm grinding my teeth all the time. I play your music. I don't grind my teeth. My stress level comes way down. So, I mean, it's really kind of been across the board. These are just a couple of different types of examples that happen to relate to a major stressor here in Southern California. But, business people who, fly off the handle. Don't react to challenges or twists and turns in the road, so to speak, that life is always more than willing to throw across our path. When playing the music in the environment, find their ability to be able to handle these twists and turns at a much more effective level, and are able to communicate, are able to maintain their cool, so to speak, and not allowing themselves to get all stressed out and out of control and all these different things. So there's definitely, a tremendous aspect. I had a woman in regards to the violence thing. In fact, I need to follow up with her, who worked at a prison in South Africa. And guess what she's piping into the environment? My music. And she's noticed already a major shift. And interestingly enough, where she noticed the shift to begin with was with the staff that work there. Because let's face it, that's got to be a pretty stressful environment to work in. I mean, no less being somebody that stays there. So there's really this noticeable reduction in how, people's stress level, how they react to circumstances and different aspects. So it's really kind of, exciting to see that possibility. And this is what happens. We're so stressed out now from all the effects of everything, in addition to whatever life might bring us in our experience, that it's not unusual that we would fly off the handle and get all stressed out and be, react in a violent nature. And once again, I think when that connection is enhanced, not only do you reduce the stress, but you begin to experience an awareness that says, you know what, violence is probably not an optimal solution for this challenge or this situation. And I really see things like that begin to rise out of individuals, is that the awareness shifts and changes. It's amazing what happens when we boost our internet connection.
So is this music being piped into the whole prison, so the prisoners are also hearing it, or just the staff?
No, I guess she was piping it in to where everybody could hear it. And so it's she had mentioned that there had been some changes, and then she noted some things with the staff. So I'm going to have to do a follow up and kind of see if they've noticed maybe like a record of reduction in violence, and incidents that take place. It's interesting. The other day I had a guy send me a note, and he said, hey, or actually sent a note to one of my affiliate partners and said, hey, what's that guy's name that makes that music that makes you smarter? I need to get a hold of him. So I finally got a hold of him. He says, hey, I had gone up there a couple of years ago for a seminar, and I gave the guy a CD, He said, hey, I've been playing your music in my office, man, and somebody stole the CD. Somebody took the CD. Dude, I need to get another one. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. He goes, I love to play that music in the office because I've got my sales team. I got people on the phones. I got people doing stuff. And it just seems that things run more harmonious. And so I sent him up 2 different CDs and stuff. And here, play it in the office, man. And it's amazing, what can show up out of that. So it's interesting.
Have you actually had any concrete results as to people increasing their intellect or IQ or something like that? Or where is he getting that information from?
I think a lot of it through observation and just seeing how people operate, and the inherent benefits that were identified with the scientists, with the brainwave state that was taking place. The change in brainwaves was heightened memory, focus, creativity, intuition. And it kind of makes sense why I've had a number of people who have conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's have noticed more coherency, better motor skills, and enhancement in motor skills, and the operation of mental skills, simply by playing the music in the environment and enhancing that connection.
Now, I know your life has had a lot of dramatic twists and turns, and it sounds like there have been many times when you simply had to do things you felt were right, with only your faith really that you were doing the right thing. And it seems to me that your faith has been tested a lot over the years as well. Mine has been as well in the work that I do. Yet you've remained steadfast in your path. Now, upon looking back over your life, would you have any advice to give people who are maybe living a more normal life and perhaps in corporate America or something else it's not really fulfilling to them, and they're feeling a calling to do something else that maybe makes no rational sense but feels right in their hearts? I'm asking this because I hear a lot from people who are standing right on that edge and who are faced with this dilemma and who are losing faith in their future. Do you have any thoughts or wisdom from your experience?
Well, I think the first thing is change your perspective of labeling it as a dilemma and labeling it as an opportunity instead. Now, I'm kind of a crazy guy. I'm the one who just went in and told my partners, and the next day I'm out, I'm done, I'm leaving. So that's just the kind of the nature of who and what I am. I don't recommend that for everybody. That's just, I know how I operate. If I dilly-dallied around, there's no way I'd be able to make the change. I got to jump in 100%, and then we can embark upon the journey. But that's not the same thing that works for everybody. I think the most important thing is number one, you got to know yourself, who and what you are, and how you operate and how you run optimally. Okay, we're all different in how we operate. There's profile things you can do and stuff to kind of get a sense of that, and that can give you some perspective on how you can take on managing this change and eventually shifting into something that's in alignment with your soul purpose and a higher calling. Most important thing is to start playing with it now. Don't use the fact that you have a day job to get in the way. Do it part-time. Start a blog. Maybe if you like to write, start writing some articles, post them on social media and stuff like that. Something that's in alignment with what you love to do, that makes your heart and soul sing. and actively look about how you can begin to do more things that are in alignment with what it is that you enjoy and what feeds your heart and soul. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take, massive action. You can transition into it. The most important thing is to begin now. Don't put it off. Begin starting honoring that aspect, that calling part of you in whatever way possible. And if you don't know the answer, excuse me, ask for the answer. Ask for clarity. Ask for guidance. Sit in meditation, quiet time. You'll get an answer. Observe. And opportunity will show up. Something will show up that'll provide you an opportunity to start expressing that part. That's what life wants to express through you. That's what the universe wants to express through you. It'll certainly as heck find a way to bring it to fruition. The main thing is to get our own resistance, our own looking at it as what was the terminology you used in the beginning of your analogy? Look at it as an opportunity to evolve your life. And yes, it might seem like a crisis. And yes, it might seem like a pain in the posterior. But try to really shift your perspective. If you're experiencing disharmony in your, let's say your work as an example, there's a reason why. You're getting called to something else. Ask the question, how can I make this shift? How can I make this work for me where I can take care of my family and be responsible and do the things that I need to do, but yet get something that's more in alignment with my purpose, my passion, and my calling? And the answers will come, and if you happen to be the crazy type, well, then plug your nose, take the plunge, and just get ready for the ride of your life. Because it'll take you places you had no idea. I mean, Ethan, it's funny. When I left 12 years ago, my vision was to become like the next Tony Robbins. I wanted to be a motivational speaker guy. I started doing speaking in golf events. That was my great idea back then. Okay, I'm about as far away as from speaking in golf events now as I ever could possibly be. I don't even golf anymore. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like that's where I thought I was going to fulfill my purpose and my calling. And then lo and behold, what happens? I discover I'm a conduit for energy that can harmonize people's lives. Wasn't part of the agenda. Well, at least it wasn't from my perspective, initially when I took the leap, but yet the overall vision was always to help people on their journey through life, get connected to their greatness and unfold into a whole new level of what they could be. And this was something that fueled me back from those stories, back from the little kid and the early realizations. It did not look how it looks today in my mind, but that's the importance of practicing detachment and realizing that, hey, man, life's got a whole grander version of what your life can be than what your perception might entail at a particular time in your life. But the most important thing is to find a way to be true to your passions now, today, even if it's just on a part-time basis, even if you can only do it on the weekend, do it. Even if only you can do it 10 minutes a day, do it 10 minutes a day. Whatever that might be for you, take it on. And if you don't know what that is, ask what it is and be prepared for an answer. And when you get the answer, take action in that direction.
Now, we did a webcast together a little while back, and where you joined one of my energy transfer webcasts and played music throughout. And I actually often play your music when I do events here in Michigan as well. And I've had people who are energy sensitive listen to the music from that particular webcast, and they have commented that the energy is really intense during that period of time, and that it's unique from the energy that I use and unique from the energy that they sense from your music. It's some kind of interesting blend. Before we wrap up today, would you mind playing a little something for the recording?
So is there a particular intention, something that you'd like to accomplish from this?
I would like, we are all about enhancing people's lives. Obviously, anything you would play would be great, but our primary focus is really bringing more happiness and more enhancing people's health and lives in any way possible. So whatever you play, I'm sure will be perfect. So whatever intention you think would be suitable, it would be great.
The first thing that popped in my head when he said that was the energy and the frequency of self-love, to love ourselves more. There's always more love to unfold into, so we're never done. It's like it's an ongoing, the frequency range goes on forever and ever and ever. So that's the piece that really kind of showed up. This is like one of the most powerful transformational frequencies is that of self-love. So this is a little musical mantra for self-love. And what I would invite everybody that's listening is to just, set the intention for yourself to love yourself more. That's it, and just a healthy love and appreciation of self. And as I play, just take some nice deep breaths and imagine yourself just breathing in this self-love. And just take some nice deep breaths. And just allow yourself to kind of embody that. So just take some nice deep breaths. And just to really kind of embody this on a physical level, because remember, we dance in the material and in the spiritual or non-physical world, is to just take on an act of self-love for yourself today, whatever it might be. Go out, get a massage, spend some time in nature, or go get a nice green shake somewhere, or treat yourself to a nice meal, or light some candles and meditate and journal some nice list of what it is you're grateful for in your life. Whatever it might be, just take on that act and see what unfolds for you. See what begins to shift in your experience as a result of just embodying that energy, that frequency, and open up and just be in awe of what can begin to shift when you love yourself more.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Now, your music, your work has really changed dramatically in the past couple of years that I've known you, and it seems like maybe you're going in a little different direction. Where do you see your work taking you in the years ahead, or is there anything new that you're working on or planning on in the near future?
Well, I think I am always working on new stuff, and I'm definitely expressing myself in some different ways. There's a component of me that I do love to get out and speak. I do love to get out and create shifts and changes in people. And myself personally, I believe there's part of this work needs to be brought into the mainstream. So there's a part of me that is actively looking, and in this case, I'm getting out. I'm doing more keynote concerts. I'm doing process work, group work and stuff with music, with energy. I might not necessarily talk about all the things that we talked about today, but that's the beauty of some of the work that I do. It's not really necessary to do so. So there's an active part of me that loves this whole concept of becoming the composer of our lives, and that wants to help people, to teach people how to play beautiful music throughout their lives. And part of that is certainly tuning their strings and bringing that to fruition. So that's a part of me that I'm definitely bringing forward and providing resources to help people in doing that. The other aspect is really providing different ways that people can access this energy, like a pendant, like music, working on some other different things. And really, ultimately, this is something that we've talked about before in the past, and I've never really brought it forward, is teaching people how to access this energy themselves. This is something that's not inherent to me and not available to anybody else. It's something that's teachable and transferable so that people can restore harmony in their own environments, energize their own smart meter, significant other, whatever it might be, kids. And so I send energy to my kids all the time. If they don't feel good, hey, come over here. Let's do some work on you and help to restore harmony and energy. If the little one's got a cold or something, I'll hold her close and I'll send energy into the lungs and see these lungs as being harmonious. And, and these are, something that's teachable and transferable. So that's something that, I'm in the process this next year, we'll start bringing that forward and providing a vehicle where people can learn how to become, in essence, harmonizers themselves and begin to harmonize their own environments, their own homes, their own families, their own smart meters, their own disruptive energy producers that are around them, all with the effort and with the intention of restoring harmony in the world today. So that's kind of the direction. It's kind of in two different directions, but yet they're still kind of synchronistic with each other. There's a part of me that still likes to be true to my passions. And I love the whole thing about creativity and how do we compose our lives and great. And there's lots of information that have been taught to that, but we've never even taken on the first step of tuning our strings. When I first learned how to play guitar, in other words, when I first learned how to create music, applying the metaphor to you and me, or, to life, is that the first thing on my first lesson, the first thing I learned to do was how to tune my strings. And unfortunately, we're such a action-orientated, task-orientated, do society. We learn how to set goals and take action steps and chunk things down and do all those, corporate things and stuff, but never take time to actually look in the mirror and restore harmony and enhance the connection. So, I think that's a tremendous part of a necessary part of the process. And I think really you kind of alluded to it earlier, why things like the law of attraction and stuff like that haven't worked for people is, I love the old statement out of the Upanishads and out of this old Vedic text that, hey, you might be aware, but if you don't have control over your mind, you're still going to have issues. You're still going to have challenges. The mind is the governor of creation and what it is that we manifest in our experience. Yeah, you can have an awareness that everything is energy and that we're all consciousness and divine. But if you have old programming that's running in the operating system software of our mind, you're not going to be able to create your desired outcome on the movie screen of your life experience. And so, there's a lot of work to be done. Certainly what you're doing, what other people we know that are doing is all part of this beautiful synergistic puzzle that's coming together to provide wonderful resources and tools, once again, to help people to tap into their power. And when we tap into our power and we're empowered, we can change the world that we live in. We can go to that, where we all have salt, water generators, or just scalar energy access where we can light our homes and all these different cool things. And I think it's all coming. And you and I and many other people that we know all signed up to be in the trenches to carve the path. And, I'm happily going to engage upon that every day and do the best that I can and do my part in bringing that forward. So lots of stuff to be done, lots of new expressions coming up, and really excited about the overall journey and process.
where can people find out more about you or purchase your music, find out about your events and services, and maybe even get the soon-to-be released picture of you to hang on their wall?
Back to the picture, man. You couldn't get away from that. Thanks. I appreciate that. Hey, the best place always to go visit me on the web, at least, is Mark. It's Mark with a K, ROMERO music.com. Once again, MarkRomeromusic.com. It's a great place. All kinds of stuff there about the music, and you can learn more. There's even a little sign-up box on the homepage where you can get access to some downloads, some guided meditations and visualizations, which is another aspect that I really love doing in combination with the music and process work, all designed to help you tune the strings of your life experience so that you can play more beautiful music throughout every aspect of your life. So markromeromusic.com. I'm also on Facebook at Mark Romero Music, and also all the lovely little social media outlets and stuff. So I'd love to connect and hear your questions and open up to the possibilities. So there you go.
Thank you, Mark. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Actually, quite a few of us are looking forward to seeing you again at the next expo coming up this April, 24th through 26th. And so we'll be in touch with you between here and there.
That sounds fantastic. Look forward to coming out. I did make a request that all the frost and frozen stuff is melted by the time I come out there, but I don't know. I might be pushing my luck, huh? I might have to go get a jacket.
You might. We'll do our best for you.
All right, cool. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Mark.